I'm going to make a guess and assume that most of you listening already knows who Jack Kirby is. He would have celebrated his 100th birthday last year. For those who don't know, or which I'd be kind of surprised if you don't, but then again, people exist, Kirby is one of the most celebrated and legendary figures in the comics industry. He was the co-creator of Captain America with Joe Simon and countless others alongside Stan Lee, including the Fantastic Four, Thor, Iron Man, the original X-Men, and the Black Panther. Kirby's reach and influence spans, well, the entirety of comics, especially the superhero garb. He originally got his start in animation before diving into the comics industry in 1963, and that even predates Superman. By the way, how cool is it they're bringing back the trunks for Action Comics 1000? But he worked in various genres before exploding alongside the popularity of superheroes. See, comic artists of the time, especially at Marvel, were encouraged and instructed to mimic Kirby's style as much as possible, given copied pages of his pencils to work on inks, just to get a feel of how Kirby drew his characters, how he placed a scenery, how he structured a page. Kirby is easily one of the most important figures in comics, whose style defined the look of many stories his pen didn't even touch. Primarily associated with Marvel thanks to all the amazing creations his name and talents are linked to, in late 1970, however, Kirby signed a contract with DC Comics, moving to the competing company and created a whole new mythology, the Fourth World and the New Gods. For anyone reading Mr. Miracle, you're welcome. That was all Jack Kirby. This is all mythology that DC is still drawing from nearly 5 decades later. Heck, he's the creator of Darkseid. According to Sean Howe in Marvel Comics The Untold Story, pages of Kirby's work on these new books would be smuggled into the Marvel offices where the artists and writers could literally marvel at Kirby's work and see just how he was improving, how they could compete with the legend. Despite Kirby's legendary status, his influence on the industry and his immense talent, DC took every drawing Kirby did of Superman and swapped out the artwork with his face. They would have another artist, in this case Al Plastino, draw back over Superman's face. According to Brian Cronin, author of Was Superman a Spy, Kirby had Superman guest star in his Jimmy Olsen stories to establish these new gods in the DC universe, but when he did, strangely enough, DC had a different artist redraw Superman's face, Al Pacino, who was a popular Superman artist during the 1950s, and drew the first appearances of both Brainiac and Supergirl. He was brought in by DC to redraw Kirby's Superman faces, to make them appear consistent with the way the hero looked in his own comic book, which at the time was drawn by Kurt Swan. What's strange about this is the fanfare DC made over having the talent of Jack Kirby working in the DC universe. The simple idea of having Jack Kirby, the legendary artist, drawing one of DC's flagship characters and the originator of superheroes as a whole would have been enough of a draw. But even with his talent on board, it seemed that even in the 70s, DC was more concerned with keeping their continuity intact than letting a legendary artist express their own views and style for a legendary character. This is just a fantastic little piece of history that I just can't believe. I mean, it's amazing. There's side-by-side comparisons of Kirby's work and what was actually published, and I implore you to look it up for yourselves. It is just amazing.